What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with another Cure Thursday as we continue through the 1984 album The Top, though we are working from the 2006 Deluxe Edition. Thank you as always to Phil. And the next track is, amusingly, Birdmad Girl. I've never heard the word Birdmad at all, never mind used as an adjective or modifier. Taking it at face value, I would assume it relates to someone who is obsessed with or crazy about, in a colloquial sense, birds, be that an ornithologist or someone with a more amateur or passing interest. Perhaps it could be someone who owns a lot of birds or who visits an apiary. Nevertheless, we do have an identity of the person's gender. It is a girl. So, yeah, that is the building blocks of the title, but I really don't know what to do with that. It's quite an eccentric and amusing title, given that their songs often have nuanced emotions or unexpected turns narratively, some of which I pick up on a first listen, but admittedly there's been a number of Cure tunes where I've had to wait for people in the comments to give me some insight, so I appreciate all the folks who have been following this deep dive and providing that information. In any case, let's give it a listen. This is The Cure. The track is Birdmad Girl, and it's from the 1984 album The Top. Like a harp. sonically, a really interesting track. Now, someone did comment in the previous reaction, because I was saying with the opening tune that, like, wow, it has a darkness to it. It sounds more like Pornography or Faith than the singles compilation we went through. And someone did mention that it's essentially a continuation of the feelings and more dark sounds from Pornography than the lighter, fun, and even jazzy sounds of some of those singles we went through on Japanese Whispers. Maybe I caught a bit of that, but this one did feel a bit more in between. There was a quirkiness to it. It felt a bit disorienting or maybe even dissonant, although not in an intense or wicked way, just a bit zany and all over the place sonically, but again, not in a bad way. But so, number one, I certainly noticed the bass. There was a really grooving sound of the bass. I will say at the very beginning of the track, and maybe just because I did a Smiths reaction earlier and it was an instrumental tune, the opening few moments, it's like, this kind of sounds like an earlier Smiths tune. Now, quickly that feeling went away when the keyboard sounds started to come in, and there was that, I think, acoustic guitar. I was saying it sort of had a plucked quality as if it was a harp, something about the intensity of the string sounds, but I'm assuming that was an acoustic guitar. It almost reminded me of, what's that Leyenda piece, or Leyenda, the Asturias? It almost reminded me of that really plinky, plucky type of playing of a guitar, but again, there was some keyboard synth sounds and even some more proper piano type keyboard moments where it again took it away from what I would think of as a classic or early Smith sound. So that feeling subsided pretty quickly. But as I said, there was a lightness to it, but also a bit of a frantic or disorienting, discordant, maybe that word is too strong, but yeah, it didn't have a smooth melodic sound to it, but was a bit intense. Now, the vocal performance from Robert is really interesting because before I even get to the bird song style vocalizations, which felt like they were in the lead vocals but also in a supporting vocal, which I don't know if that was also Robert. It even sounded like it might be a female voice, which perhaps could fit if we are indeed talking about a girl. But yeah, really charismatic vocal performance where he was inflecting some of his delivery in ways that I'm not used to. It still had, obviously, his characteristic voice, and again, you would never assume that to be anyone but Robert Smith, but he sung here in some surprising flourishes and moments that were unlike a lot of singing I've heard him do, or that was, because I think I said the verb, or noun rather, was singing, right? Nevertheless, the point is, the normal singing from him was already a bit eccentric, and then of course we have those bird calls, which seemingly were a play on this Birdmad Girl, or at the very least they were vocalizations, melodic, non-lyrical, that I think can be heard as animalistic and, again, maybe avian specifically. So that was a really interesting vocal performance from Robert. And then we get the lyrics, which I'm not sure what's happening. At first he talks about this girl who apparently at night sets fire to his house and he dies. Then he's talking about desire, so I'm wondering if dying is more emotional or psychological rather than more literal, if after that happens he's speaking to desire and indeed is still speaking at all. But then he seemed to confirm that with talking about this, was it a deep darkness inside him? But then she seemed to be referring to him, or he referred to her as like looking inside a cage and maybe making sounds outside the cage. So I'm thinking bird could be a metaphor for him, who's, driving him mad inside this cage. He's the bird in this figurative understanding, and perhaps because he's encaged and being taunted or tormented, that's where this dark feeling is coming from. I don't know if that's the right read, but I think I'm not insane. I think, what was it, I wish, or whatever the sentiment was, that I could be, or I wish I was a polar bear. So again, I've had some funny audio malapropisms what was it, the ice cream bunny, which was talking about like a body which had been removed from a river. Shout out to those who explained the actual lyrics, but also the meaning behind them. Apparently it was something Robert saw when he was young, and it was a very, sort of traumatic experience. So I don't know if I'm actually mishearing this, but he like reset it multiple times, and I do love when that happens. It reminds me, and Phil might remember this, there was a Eurythmics reaction, and I forget which one it was in the moment, but she said a phrase where I wasn't sure, and I was like, wait, did she say the ocean? And literally, one moment later, she said the ocean again. It's like, oh, thank you, Annie, I appreciate that. And that seemed to happen here, so I think it was Polar Bear. And, that got me thinking, certainly in 2025, even more than in 84, polar bears are in danger of becoming extinct because their habitat is changing fast and rapidly and so on. Now, I don't expect that to necessarily have any relevance here, but I wondered if it was about the tenuous position that a polar bear occupies, or perhaps it's something about that animalistic nature relative to birds and or being in cage. So I don't quite know how to read multiple aspects of the lyrics, even if I did catch, I think, some of the lines and phrases more or less clearly. But it's, a really interesting song that seemingly relates to psychology and emotion and violent imagery, likely on a figurative or metaphorical level, and vis-a-vis this girl who is maybe tormenting him, maybe making actions which are destructive or incinerating to the narrator. So I really don't know what to make of it, but I'm curious because it sounded intense, excuse me, it sounded violent and dangerous, which, again, following on the heels of a dark album like Pornography, maybe that aspect of this song is more of a thematic segue, whereas sonically, this again feels a bit lighter and zanier than anything on Pornography, and similar to, or more similar to, but maybe not exactly like some of the singles, which again, Love Cats with that jazzy feel, and there were one or two other tunes which definitely had a lighter sound. This might be somewhere in the middle, so again, inevitably when I go through these deep dives and I'm doing tunes in succession or albums or compilations in succession, I'm making comparisons, trying to chart the evolution of a group, or at least the sonic diversity of a group. So these are thoughts that come into my head. Let me know, and I appreciate once again the more knowledgeable and enthusiastic Cure fans who become part of this deep dive. So I'm very much enjoying it. I hope you are. Let me know what you think of this one, and I will see you next time. Peace.